Intro started.
Morning.
30 away. $20. $10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Good morning, Commissioners. Welcome to the Wednesday, August 25th, 2021 Board of County Commissioner meeting. Today, Commissioners, don't really have an opening for you. However, we'll just kind of go over the agenda. Item A, public hearing regarding the 2022 Sedgwick County budget and adoption of revenue neutral rate. Resolution, we've got an adoption of the 2022 Sedgwick County budget and the capital improvement program. We've got third amendment to the agreement for the legislative liaison services, so our contract lobbyists. A resolution amending certain Sedgwick County personnel policies and procedures. We've kind of talked about this over the last couple of weeks. And then we have our consent agenda. With that, Chairman, I'll turn the meeting over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Hakeem. Good morning, everybody. Thank you again, commissioners and staff, for coming to a end of the month Wednesday special meeting that we will now call to order. Madam Clerk, first item, please.
Invocation to be observed by a moment of silence. Please remain standing for the flag salute.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Roll call. Commissioner Lopez. Present. Commissioner Dennis.
Present.
Commissioner Howell.
Present.
Commissioner Cruz.
Present.
Chairman Meitzner.
Present. Next item, please.
New business. Item A, public hearing regarding the 2022 Sedgwick County budget and adoption of revenue neutral rate resolution.
Good morning, everybody. Tom Stoltz,
Good
please.
morning, Chairman and Commission. This morning is the final public hearing for the 2022 recommended budget. Sedgwick County's recommended operating budget totals $462,548,518. This budget will be supported with a property tax levy of $161,536,297, which is approximately equivalent to 29.359 mills based on the estimated assessed valuation and subject to technical adjustments. As a reminder, the revenue neutral rate is 28.349 mills. I recommend you open the public hearing on the budget and the revenue neutral rate, receive comments, and close the public hearing once it is over.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I don't see any comments yet. At this time, we will open for public comment on this, on our budget as presented. Anybody from the public like to address the commission? Do we have anybody signed up out front? We don't have anybody signed up. Anybody else in the public want to address the commission? Okay, being none, we will close the public comment and bring the item back to the bench. I'll make a motion to approve the budget, and I can read the motion again. Is there any comments before that or questions? Okay, Mr. Howell, Commissioner Howell.
You're making a motion to adopt the budget already?
We didn't have any public comment.
To approve a resolution to levy a property tax rate exceeding the revenue neutral rate. That's specifically
correct.
what we need to do.
Yep.
So was his motion worded enough to make that clear?
I might look to if the deputy clerk could repeat the motion, what it was, please.
To adopt the resolution related to the budget of 2.359 mills.
29.35.
29.39 mills.
I think, and I don't know if Lindsay had prepared any motion language on this, it might be cleaner to just adopt the resolution which is in your backup materials. It might be cleaner for the motion to be to adopt the resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate and its property tax levy for the budget year of 2022. That's reading from the title of the resolution, but that's what it does, and that complies with Senate Bill 13.
Okay, in your backup material on page 6, at the top of the page 6, it says resolution. So I'll amend my motion to say motion to make a motion to adopt a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Sedgwick County, Kansas, to exceed the revenue neutral rate in its property tax levy for the budget year 2022. There's a motion and a second. Did you have something to say? Yeah. Okay, all right. Commissioner Howell?
So just so everyone understands, so the revenue neutral rate was 28.349. This budget is developed around a target of 29.359. That's a 1.01 mil increase above the revenue neutral rate. So for a $100,000 home, again, most of our property taxpayers are residential, so let's just talk about that one specific. There's a number of other classes of taxation, but for a residential property at a $100,000 home, it would be $11 and just a hair more than 50 cents, $11.50, just call it $11.50 more taxes this next year as a result of this vote. I want to make sure everyone understands that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Commissioner Cruz?
Okay, so I just want to make sure that people understand the Sedgwick County tax rate isn't increasing in this budget. The 2021 budget includes an actual mill levy rate of 29.376, where the 2022 recommended budget includes an estimated mill levy rate of 29.359 mills. So for this year's budget, the commission might adopt a 2021 budget with an estimated rate of 29.359 mills in August of 2020, but the rate was technically adjusted by the clerk to the actual rate of 29.376 after all of the property values appeals were worked through the final values, and the final values were set as of October 2020. The recommended budget for 2022 includes an estimated mill levy rate of 29.359 mills. So we're resetting the rate back down to the rate we approved in the 21 budget. The proposed rate is flat with the rate we adjusted last August, or actually going down a bit from the technically adjusted rate. So I want to say that what we're doing is making an adjustment, and that's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out. Thank you for pointing that. Any other comments? Being none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez? Aye. Commissioner Dennis?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner?
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Next item, please.
Item B, adoption of the 2022 Sedgwick County budget and the capital improvement program.
Good morning again,
Mr.
Commissioners.
Schultz.
Now it's time to adopt the budget.
All right.
My apologies. While we're working through this revenue neutral rate policy, it's a little bit clunky. Sedgwick County's 2022 recommended operating budget totals $462,548,518. This budget will be supported with a property tax levy of $161,536,297, which is approximately equivalent to 29.359 mills based on the estimated assessed valuation and subject to technical adjustments. The public was invited to participate in 2 public hearings and comment online at a forum at www.sedgwickcounty.org. I recommend you adopt the resolutions for the 2022 Sedgwick County operating budget and the capital improvement program and authorize the chairman to sign.
Okay, thank you, Tom, for the comment, and Lindsay and staff, thank you for all the work you've done on this budget this year. Is there any questions or comments from the commission? So, Mr. Dennis. Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you. I guess I'll start. The question that I have and change that I'd like to make to the budget for 2022 is in the capital improvement plan. We do have a project for a storage building for the fire department. And I guess I've got a few problems with that project. First of all, when it was originally briefed to us, it was briefed to us because we had plenty of money in the budget. Might as well spend it for this. And that's not a good reason to spend money. If we've got plenty of money in the budget, we need to give a tax break back to the people that are paying property tax for that. In addition, if you look at the project, it says location is to be determined. So that means that the money that's in the budget right now doesn't include property. So as a result of that, we're still going to have to go out and buy property. So there's not enough budget in here for that. In addition, it says that if you describe the impact, it says, hey, we're just going to use cash reserve funds, as I've already mentioned, and there would be minimal annual overhead other than keeping the facility climate controlled. I don't believe that that's true, because any building that we have, there is a cost to having a building. There is cost to keeping it heated, and that's one of the reasons the fire department said that they were wanting this, was to keep the buildings heated. And I don't know what other kind of things that are going to be needed in this building. On top of that, we just built a brand new fire station out at Andale. We've got 2 empty bays sitting there that aren't being used right now. I was just out at 39 over by Garden Plain the other day. We actually had a reserve fire truck parked in there, and there was still an empty bay sitting in that building. I asked the staff what other buildings that we had around. I haven't got a response to that. So I don't see a need at all for that right now. Maybe in the future something might come up. So I move that the capital improvement project titled Fire District Number 1 Storage Facility, which is listed in year 2025 of the capital improvement plan, be removed from the capital improvement plan and placed on the watch list in case something comes up in the future.
Okay, for clarification, the capital improvement plan is kind of all-encompassing. It doesn't have to be a separate under the fire issue. Correct. Okay. I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Being none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez? Aye. Commissioner Dennis?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner?
Aye. Okay. Commissioners, any others? Commissioner Howell?
All right, thank you. Just before I get started, I want to just let someone know that someone's texted me and said our audio and video is not being streamed.
I understand it didn't at the beginning, but it
Taken
is
care of
now.
now.
It's supposed to be working now.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
First thing I wanted to do is, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago when we talked about some of the compensation changes in this budget. One of the things I wanted to do is reestablish the county treasurer and the election commissioner back to their historical funding. Basically, they have been the same across the row offices. I think we need to continue that practice, and especially now because we have a new personality in the commission, in the election commissioner's office. When she applied for that, this was not clear to her that there was going to be a proposal for reduction in salary. And secondly, I don't think it's appropriate that we would change one of the row offices different than the other two. And I did mention the other day when I mentioned this, there was a court case that I think that is relevant to this discussion. I'm not going to bring that up today, but you all know what I'm talking about. And so with that, I make a motion that we would increase the budgeted compensation for the county treasurer and election commissioner, again, as described. I don't want to go through the details here unless I need to. Is that good enough motion?
Okay, that's a motion. I will second that motion with the reservation that both the county treasurer and the election commissioner were, I know they were fully aware of the salaries as advertised, because I got called a couple of times on both of them. Why is it at this and used to be at that? But that was before they took office or was interviewed. But I will, under the rules of or consistency, I will second the motion. Any other comments related to that motion? Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, when we discussed this a couple weeks ago, I still fully support the treasurer moving up because she knew full well exactly what her salary should have been when she ran for that office. The question that I actually have is on the election commissioner, because we advertised that at $90,000. So she was fully aware of exactly what we advertised that for. And so I am not certain why we suddenly give a pay raise to someone who actually applied for a job, full well knew exactly what the salary was, and now suddenly we're debating on whether or not to give her a pay raise about a month into her job.
Okay. Do you prefer to split that motion out to one and the other?
Well, I'll make a substitute motion that we do move the treasurer's salary up to the same level as all of the row offices and leave the election commissioner at the salary that she actually applied for and knew full well what the salary was.
Okay. I'll second that motion. Any other comments related to that?
I have one question.
Commissioner Howell.
So there's been a lot of comparisons between Sedgwick County and places like Shawnee County and Johnson County. Do we know what the salary of the election commissioner is up in Johnson County? We don't.
I do, Lindsay Poverso, CFO, I do not. Sheena, is that anything that you would have knowledge of? Okay, we'll find out.
And have we ever reset a salary like this in the past? Have we ever taken one of these offices and lowered the salary before now? Is this the first time we've ever done that?
Since I have been budget director or CFO, so 2013 and beyond, we have not done this.
Okay. Well, just so the public understands, the salary that we're discussing is $93,088 versus $90,000. And again, election commissioner and I have not spoken about this. I guess I have some concerns about the importance of that position. And again, she's not a friend or family member, okay, just be clear. But I do think it's a very, very important position. And I think for us to lower that, I don't quite understand the justification for wanting to lower it in the first place. It's such an important position. I don't really know why this is happening. Can someone please explain to me the logic as to why we're doing this?
She applied for a position at a certain rate. That's the logic.
Right.
So she applied for a position knowing how much it was going to make.
I'm wondering, why was the number reset? Before she applied for the position, before we advertised that number, why did we change it from 93,088 back down to 90?
We'll let
Commissioner-
Sheena address that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Sheena.
Sheena Schmetz, Chief Human Resources Officer. When we had these discussions about the elected and row office wages, we discussed the BOCC being at $95,000 and the rows would be under that at $90,000, which encompassed also the appointed office of the election commissioner. That's why it was at $90,000.
You say we discussed. What do you mean by we? Who discussed it? Do you know? Did you have meetings with commissioners on this?
Yes, sir, we did.
Okay. I'm not aware of that. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Commissioner, we had this discussion late last year, early in 2021, and Sheena alluded to the fact that we put the row offices all at $90,000, but then did not want to take pay away from the incumbents who were making whatever, $93,088. And actually, a couple of the row offices are making more of that. So we set the treasurer at $90,000 because that was going to be a new office. The commission has the discretion to do what you're doing today, which is elevate that, make it equal to the other row offices, but that was the discussion.
Okay. Again, I know we talked a lot about salary adjustments across the organization. I don't remember a discussion specifically about this. So again, I'm not saying we didn't have a discussion about salary. I'm not sure this came up in our discussion is my point. That's fine. There's a lot of details in the overall salary changes this year. So again, very mild, maybe it was discussed, but anyway, it's fine. Thank you. Let's go ahead and vote. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Does it Commission need it repeated, or are we clear? Raising the county treasurer and keeping the election commissioner as advertised? Okay,
We're taking the votes together.
yeah, is one vote.
Okay.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez?
No.
Commissioner Dennis?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
No.
Commissioner Cruz?
We're taking the votes together as
Raising the county treasurer.
raising the county treasurer and keeping the election commissioner the same.
Right.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner?
Aye. Okay, you can make the adjustment on that. Motion carries. All right. Commissioner Cruz, you had your, or Commissioner Howell?
Thank you.
Okay.
So just to be clear, we did talk about EMS training program earlier. I'm going to be clear, I am supportive of the 185-502 to create a pipeline for paramedics, and the training program is something I will support. I'm a little concerned about the specific proposal and exactly how that is assembled. And so I would like to say, for clarity, I'm supporting the budget with the 185-502, but I'm not supportive of the details and exactly how that money is going to be used. So can we have a discussion later about the structure of that program? That'd be all right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Just, I met with 4 of the members, including Rusty Leeds yesterday, and three of the staff in EMS. We had a very good discussion, and I asked, I think, reasonable questions, and I think that they understand why I'm concerned. And again, I think we can probably improve the program a little bit. We need to work on it a little bit longer, but we're going to get there. And so I want to be clear that I'm not going to make a motion to do anything with that today, but I do wanted to circle back and explain as to why I'm not making a motion other than just to support the overall number. My next motion would be, I would like to make a motion we would basically fully fund the senior centers. And I know I received an analysis from Lindsay just yesterday regarding the 2019 performance numbers for senior centers. And again, this goes back to a formula that was adopted by the county back around, I'm gonna guess around 2000. And you know what year that was adopted, Lindsay, that funding formula?
I
a
do
long time
not,
ago.
sir, I'm sorry.
I'm going to guess it's probably around 2009. I may be off a little bit. Lonnie probably knows. But anyway, there's a formula out there based on performance measures. And again, unless I would be supportive of taking this question, the ballot question, back out to the public and asking them to confirm or change or whatever the community's support for senior centers. But to the extent there is a ballot question out there that passed in 1982, I believe it was 1982, that passed on a vote of 2-1, I think that this is reasonable. We have a formula, and 2 of these senior centers, I've talked to at least one of them, and they definitely need the money. So I would recommend we go ahead and just fund that formula this year. And so with that, my motion is to fully fund the senior center formula for 2022 budget.
I have a question real quick.
Okay. Yeah. Commissioner Cruz?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So-
So that would be, Lindsay, you sent out the senior center increased funding requests. I don't know if we could pull that up maybe. That's the only, I guess I'd like to see this on paper
Yeah, the financial impact of
Yeah.
the motion.
before.
I would agree.
Is there a way to, and if it's this, I can, if it's this spreadsheet, okay, I can just send it. Hold on.
It is, and Akeem is going to go make a copy for us.
Okay.
Okay, you want to?
Well, my other question, though, would be, this only shows 6 of the senior centers. This was just because they requested it? Or what was the funding formula, and how did those senior centers, how did they meet the criteria to move? Because this seems to get a little kind of wonky with COVID coming in, and if their numbers are based on attendance, and we know that nobody attended last year. So I guess I want to support this. I just want to see exactly how it plays out.
Commissioners, Tim Kaufman, Deputy County Manager. Historically, we had a formula in place that outlined criteria that an entity needed to meet to maintain that funding level. That, I believe, was instituted in 2012, been followed for a number of years. Again, when it was implemented, the explanation was made very clear to the senior centers that if they met the higher level of criteria for multiple years in a row, they would be eligible for increased funding if increased funding was available. Over the course of time, that funding was not available in the budget process. And at the direction of the commission in the adoption of the, I believe it was the 2018 budget, we moved away from that funding formula. The 6 centers that are listed here are centers that had made requests in the 2019 year, even though we had moved beyond that formula for increases. And then there are 2 that, as we went back and looked at their performance, met those criteria at that point in time. Clearly, in 2020, none of the centers met the expectations for the funding that was laid out in their contract. But that's entirely due to the pandemic. So that's why there's only 6 on here, because there were 6 that made a request, and analysis indicated that 4 of those clearly did not meet the expectations of the old formula, which we have not been using for the last few budget years.
So, Commissioner Howell, if I could just ask a clarifying question. Is your motion to fund all 6 of these, or your motion is to fund the 2 who met the requirements?
Well, thank you for the question, Commissioner Cruz. The formula only would authorize more funding if they're meeting the requirements. And again, in this particular year, 2 of the senior centers did meet requirements for 2019. And so that's my motion is to fund the formula for those 2. Not because they requested money, but because they met the requirements on a performance measure calculation.
Sure. So it looks like, according to this, it would be the Mulvane Senior Center and the Valley Center Senior Center. The recommended funding, Mulvane, so we're going from that column. Mulvane would be $23,751, and Valley Center would be $5,000. Please help me understand this then.
Right.
The senior center and Valley Center would get $13,000 additional dollars. It would be moving from
So the total funding.
$5,000 per year to $18,000 per year. They're going up $13,000.
Okay.
And the Valley and the Mulvane would go from 18 to 35. That's a $17,000 increase for them.
So the difference to the budget is the 24,000.
Well,
what are we asking?
not
What are you
quite.
asking us to fund? Can you give me a specific dollar number? Because
It'd be $30,000 additional.
Mulvane did, if we want to fund the formula strictly, the old formula that we're not funding any longer, it would be an increase of $5,000 for Valley Center.
Right.
And it would be an increase of $11,249 for Mulvane, because they did receive some additional funding based on some other programming. So to get them back to the old formula number of 30
you see how this is kind of confusing? I mean, this is not the easiest spreadsheet to read.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since Tim needs readers, I'm going to do him a favor and talk about the math. And I can't judge, I'm wearing my contacts, so. Okay, so if we look at this spreadsheet here, I'll walk across the columns and we can talk about kind of the two different tracks. So if you look at Mulvane, the 2019 funding amount was $18,000. If, as Tim refers to, the old funding formula was used, they would bump up to $35,000. So that, in that circumstance, would be an increase of $17,000. Valley Center, same thing, $5,000 to $18,000. However, what Tim was just explaining is they have some additional funding. So if we move over a little bit, about halfway through on this table, you'll see 2022 recommended funding. And so instead of $35,000 for Mulvane, the recommendation is $23,751. Right next to that column then is the difference, would be the additional funding that's being recommended by aging. And so that's 11,249. For Valley Center, same thing, except they actually would have the full 13,000 recommended increase. So when we take those two numbers together, based on that 2022 recommended funding column, that brings us to the total of $24,249. So I think depending on how we look at it, it's either that number or it is the 30,000 that Commissioner Howell referenced before. So I think we just would need clarity on the motion as to which one you would prefer to make a motion to do.
Let me ask a question. The money that they're receiving right now that's above 18,000, so 23,751 minus 18, that difference, what services are they, what are we paying for currently that would be potentially the same dollars as this 17,000?
I apologize, I don't have that with me. That was based on a prior year budget increase based on, after we were directed to no longer follow the formula, we invited senior centers to present applications for specific enhanced programming, and Mulvane received some additional funding based on additional program. I can't recall right now what that was.
Okay, so to be clear, I'm not asking we give them 17,000 above the 23,751. I'm not suggesting that.
Okay.
I'm suggesting we move them back to 35,000. So the difference again, if that 23,751 would be in perpetuity at this point, then unless they change their performance measures again, the difference would be 11,249 this year. But again, I'm trying to get them back to the 35. I'm trying to get them back from 18 to 35. That's my target. So it might be helpful, just a thought, again, so in case anybody's wondering, if you go back to August the 15th, 2018, this is when the motion was made. It said we would set a cap on senior service funding at $620,000 indefinitely. And of course, we know that every county commission can change these types of motions. It says, and freeze funding for senior services at the current level for 2019 budget year. Further, I move that we direct staff to evaluate allocation models for senior center funding and bring the results to this board for consideration as part of the 2020 budget process. We just received a briefing from WSU just a few weeks ago, and there was no recommendations that I heard. Did I miss something in that? I don't think I missed anything. I was listening pretty intently. I don't think there was any recommendations on what we should do there.
I don't believe that WSU made funding recommendations.
I don't think they did either. And really, the conclusion was every county and every community, everybody does this entirely different. There's a lot of differences across the state. But one thing, again, one thing is very compelling. I should say two things are very compelling. Number one, the ballot question. I keep referencing that. We have a mandate from the people. Unless we want to change it, give the people a chance to change it, that's fine. But there's a mandate. Number two, we established a formula. And when we decided to cut this back in the day, part of that reason for cutting this was we were having some challenges on funding. This year, we're talking about an additional a little more than $1 million. That's about $5.5 million additional property taxes going into the county. I don't know we have an argument about the funding this year. But for us not to fund this, in my opinion, is disrespectful to the seniors and disrespectful to that formula, disrespectful to the voters. We're gonna hem and haw about whether we should or shouldn't fund this when I think this is my seventh year up here. I probably fought for this every single year I've been up here. I don't understand why this continues on. This is more political than financial. Let's do the right thing. Let's move this forward. Let's fund the senior center program, the formula that was been established before I even showed up here. We tell them one thing and we promise them one thing and we don't deliver after they provide the service to the people. I think that is not fair. It certainly is. The word of the day is disingenuous. It's certainly disingenuous. It's certainly disrespectful. We need to move forward. I have fought for this over and over and over. Let's just do the right thing today. Thank you.
Can I have a follow-up to that? If I may.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to see, I've been a supporter of seniors my entire career. That's where I worked before I came here. So I am an adamant supporter of the seniors in our community. So let me just make that point. The second point that I would make, though, is my very first step into this room was that day in 2018. when this room was full of seniors. I mean, it was standing room only, really. And what I'd like to see, and I make that point because there's not any in here today, I wonder how we are engaging them in this process, because to bring this to our board today, I think is we have to have this discussion, but I wonder, where are the other levels? Where are the other senior centers on here? We have a lot. And so I'd like to see just exactly what we can do to improve the entire system as a whole. We had talked about there's a database management that I believe Tim and I, we had a conversation this morning about would already be implemented as far as, because this funding level was based on attendance, it's based on all sorts of different factors, whereas if we had a database to track all of this stuff, would it be easier to understand, how they're operating at a touch of a button? So I think that the way we're funding this could definitely be improved, and I'd like to support this today, but I wonder where are we at with the rest of them, and how are we segmenting this out just for these 6? I get it that these were requests that were made, but how close are the others to meeting their criteria in 2019? Those are just all the questions that I have. So I feel like I'm kind of being put into in a corner here, because I do support senior centers and I do support seniors in our community, but I'd like to approach this in a little bit of a different way, so that we can be very diligent about the money that is going out. Because when we talk about $24,000, I mean, that's a lot of money. I mean, in comparison to our budget, maybe not, but when we're talking about $13,000 to a senior center, I believe that they probably could really utilize that and stretch it very far. So I guess I say all of that to, I will second the motion, but I would like to have a really hard discussion around how these are funded, and if we have to change this, then let's talk about it in considering all of them and not just these 6. I guess that's what I have to say.
Okay, a few other comments. Commissioner Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. And I was here in 2018 when we voted on that, and I think one of the things that was clear at that point was that the old formula was absolutely not useful. It was not something that was providing the services that we need. Let me also make clear that I think that seniors are increasing in number, and we're going to have to provide additional support in the future, and possibly in this budget, depending on if we can come to some kind of an agreement on what we're doing. As far as how that we get the additional money in the future, we can levy up to a 1 cent sales tax if we wanted to. Maybe a 1/10 of a cent sales tax might be a way of sustaining this in the future, just some kind of ideas. But let me explain why that I can't support what the motion is, and I won't vote in favor of it. That's because I want to make sure that I support all of our seniors in Sedgwick County. And what this motion does is it provides $24,000 of additional money to 2 of our senior centers. But the problem we've got is how many total senior centers are there in Sedgwick County, not including the ones that we fund, but all senior centers?
I don't have that number.
Okay, we don't even know how many senior centers we've got in Sedgwick County. The number that we've got that we are providing funding for, do you agree that there are more senior centers out there than that?
I do, yeah. There are some that have chosen not to accept county funding for a variety of different reasons.
Okay, so we're picking and choosing winners and losers on who's getting supported, which I don't think is fair. Another thing that I don't think is fair is we're looking at $24,000 going to 2 senior centers, but then when I take a look at my rural areas, 400 square miles of rural areas, I'm discounting in the city. I have 1 senior center within the city at Orchard Park. But the other 3 senior centers that I have that are covering, that are getting funding, that are covering about 400 square miles, are getting a total of, let's see, Mount Hope gets $18,000, Cheney $5,000, and Bentley gets $5,000. So $28,000 to cover the entire western half of Sedgwick County. $28,000. That's what we're allocating today. Is $28,000. Now we're looking at giving $24,000 to 2 senior centers, which is almost the total amount that's going into my district. So we have to take a look. What is the poorest district out there? Well, if you take a look at the value per square mile in Sedgwick County, my district is just a little over $2 billion per square mile. Or $2 million, I'm sorry, get that number right. A little over $2 million. The very next closest district is Commissioner Lopez's district, which is about $4.5 million a square mile. So I'm $2.5 million less in value. We have some poor people. It's not worth as much. But when we're talking about people, and that's what we're talking about today, let's talk about seniors, because that's who we're trying to support. If we're talking about seniors, the total percent of seniors in my district is 15.99% of my district is made up of seniors. That is the highest population of seniors in the entire county. From there, it actually goes up to District 1 with 15.7. We then go to District 5 with 12.92, District 4, 12.81, and District 2 with 12.62. So I have the most seniors, and guess what I get? I get $28,000 in the rural areas to support those seniors. We had a study by WSU, probably the poorest study that I've seen lately, and I'm very blunt with that. It didn't explain this problem that we've got on how to do it. It didn't take a look at how many senior centers are out there that aren't even getting funding. All it says was, hey, you had a formula back here and you're not living up to the formula. Well, we voted not to because it was not fair to all our senior centers. And today we're going to be even more unfair to the senior centers because we're going to give away $24,000, $249 to 2 senior centers, and my 3 out there are sitting here at $28,000 total out in the county. So I can't support this. What I can support is let's take a look at the entire seniors problem that we've got out there. Oh, and one other thing, senior centers is only 1 program out of 16 programs, correct? 1 program out of 16. Why aren't we talking about the other programs? We got to have Meals on Wheels. We've got more and more seniors that are having to be able to get out there. We've got to make sure that they got mobility. We've got to make sure that we can get them to hospital appointments. We've got 15 other priorities, and we're not even talking about those. We're talking about senior centers. So I think that we're putting our priorities completely wrong if we're talking about taking care of seniors. So I'm going to continue to advocate for seniors, but I'm going to continue to advocate that we really provide the services that we need to all of the seniors. So I can't support this motion. If the staff or if any of the commissioners have a better way, I'm looking forward to that. But I really think we need to task the staff to go back and tell them to do what we told them to do in 2018 that we haven't gotten from them yet, is what the heck do we need to support seniors? And look at all 16 programs that we've got with seniors. And that, I think, would be the best motion that we'd have is let's reevaluate all of the senior services that we have and find a way to fund the seniors the way that we need to. Do we need to add a 1/10 cent sales tax in order to be able to have the funding to do that? What do we need to do? I'm open, but I am certainly not going to support this motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lopez?
Thank you. When did senior centers originally start? How long ago has that been?
History that we've found, it appears that they started in about the 1940s in New York, in the state of New York.
Has there been any overhaul of services provided, or really what that looks like anytime recently?
Nothing significant. I think they've evolved over time slightly. You know, we have, in the last year, we worked with them in particular around technology because, again, they couldn't fulfill their normal mission of being open and a gathering site for seniors. So we've worked with them on technology, and we continue to do that, and we're providing some additional resources to all the senior centers so that they can reach out to people through technology as well. But in general, no, it's the same model that was developed in the 40s.
I just think that the seniors in the 1940s versus seniors today are completely different, and we do need to look at the services provided at the senior center, see how we can bring them up to date. I love the idea of bringing technology into the program so we can see what programs are being utilized most and be able to track that easier than what it appears like we can do now. So I would like to see an audit, or I don't know if that's the right word, but just looking at senior centers and see what, how we can do things better, how we can be more efficient, how we can get more return on investment, because I do think that we need to do everything we can for this population, and the population is continuing to grow and having more needs. But I just want to make sure that the money we spend is being spent on the right things and doing it in the way that, senior centers look today and what they will look like going forward, and not necessarily how we're doing everything from, before it was even 2000. So that's what I would like to see. I mean, I'm not opposed to supporting this motion this year, but I think before we do this again in our next budget, we need to have a better idea of what our senior centers are providing and what we can do to make that process better or more efficient, or that our money is really going to be spent in the best possible way to get to the most people and have the most impact. So that's what I would like to see going forward, but that's all I have.
If I may, one of the tools that the department is looking at is a database that would allow them to make that available to all the senior centers that we work with, so that they could then better provide data back to the department, so that we could analyze who comes, how frequently they come, where they go. Again, there are no boundaries related to senior centers, and so folks can go to multiple. I know there are seniors who go to multiple different centers, but there's no consolidated information system. The department is looking at some multiple funding streams that they have available to them to provide that to the senior center system that we currently fund, to allow them to provide us with better information and better data, so that we've got more information going forward as we have discussions like this.
Okay, yep, I would love to see any kind of just overhaul of that system and really bring it up to date, and not try and think about the seniors in the 1940s and really think about the seniors in the 2030s. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Commissioner Howland, do you have some?
All right, thank you, Chairman. Hey, just curiously, there's 17 senior centers, to answer that question, that we provide funding to. There may be others out that don't receive funding, but there are 17 that we have provided funding to for quite a long time. Mr. Kaufman, if someone was to visit the senior centers in Commissioner Dennis's district, and they were receiving services there, would they, at some point, would they be eligible for more funding under this formula? If we followed the formula?
Yes.
Okay, so why do they not get more money today?
I can't answer that question.
Okay, let me answer the question then. It's because they're not using the senior centers that are out there. It's true.
Have you been out there?
I have been out there.
Okay.
I think it's,
Well,
we're talking about picking and choosing winners and losers. That would be politically picking and choosing winners and losers. We're following a formula that takes the politics out of it. It's supposed to. The reason we're providing funding to these senior centers is because they're providing services to seniors. They have the performance measures that qualifies them for funding. That's exactly why we follow a formula. So we don't have to pick and choose winners and losers. And I think it's interesting that You talk about, is the poorest, I'm not sure that was the right word, but the least wealth per square mile. I think that's a very interesting perspective. I would recommend that we look at assessed value. Assessed value is a measure of wealth. That same number of people live in District 3, live in District 5, in District 4, and across all the districts are supposed to be that way. I have the smallest number of square miles. I have 106 square miles. He has 454 square miles. My folks don't have a lot of assessed value per property, but the assessed value per property out there is much higher than mine. In fact, I presented this earlier, but out of the 5 districts, District 1 has the most assessed value, District 3 has the second most, but District, also look at wage income. What's the average salary for the 5 districts? I can argue that my district has some of the greatest needs among the 5 districts. I think 2 of the districts have more income and have more assessed value, which is fine. There are differences across districts, that's fine. We don't spend money, even Steven, we don't peanut butter across the entire county. We spend money where it's needed. When it comes to mental health funding, for example, we don't spend money in the outskirts of the county because we just want to be fair. We spend the money where the needs are. And I think that when you follow a formula, it makes it clear these are the places where people are needing the programs. To the extent there's 15 programs that we provide funding to under this mill levy, or I should say under this topic, I'll just use that term. The other 14, correct me if I'm wrong, but the other 14 are grant funded. We provide either we're pass through, we provide a service as pass through, or we provide some type of match for some of those programs. But all 14 of those have grant dollars or federal and state dollars built into the other 14. Can you please clarify that? I've looked at this before. This is the only one of the 15 that's completely property tax funded.
I think that's accurate, yes. We fund services. The other funding from this funding source is paid for services.
So I think it's disingenuous, once again, to say that the wheelchair fitting program is more important, less important than something else on that list. I think they're all important. And whoever assigned priority or value to those, in my opinion, that was not a county commission decision. That was someone in staff or someone out there did that. But I don't know if I agree with that. The idea is that this is the most important, this is the least important. I don't know if I agree with that. The reality is they're all important. Senior centers are one way that people receive services. A lot of our services we provide to seniors come through senior centers. They provide not just socialization with other people of the community. They have nutrition programs, exercise programs. They help them with computers and email and things like that. They do home safety inspections and improvements, trying to make sure they stay safe in their home. Seniors are living longer since it just came out. I've been looking at the data. Our numbers actually were too conservative. We need to change our data now because there's more seniors than we thought there was going to be. The numbers are even greater than we thought. And who knows about dollars going as far today as they did 6 or 7 years ago. Things cost more today, obviously. Yet we have frozen the funding all these years I've been here. I think, again, take the politics out of this. Let's fund the formula. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Dennis.
Well, thank you. I don't think it's politics that's involved in this thing. I think it's the support of seniors, and that's what I've been arguing all along. It's the support of seniors. I am baffled at the fuzzy math that is being used here when it says that my district has got so much money. I pointed out the value per square mile, and that's the only way you can look at it, is the lowest by over $2.5 million per square mile. So if he says that I'm rich out there, I guess that we're a lot richer than I anticipated. I'm not sure. If we want to put $24,249 in the budget, I have no problem with doing that today, as long as that we put it in the right place. I've said earlier, the reason that we eliminated that funding formula because it wasn't fair to all of our seniors. So I guess I'd like to make a substitute motion that we add $24,249 to the seniors funding budget for 2022, and we tasked the staff to go back and do a complete analysis of all senior centers, and when I say all senior centers, I mean all senior centers in Sedgwick County, and find a way that we can fairly fund all of the 16 programs that need to be funded for seniors. And I think probably we ought to put a contingency out, and I'll ask Lindsay before I go on with this thing. If we add a contingency fund in the budget for seniors, and we earmark it for seniors, and this study comes up and says that we have to do more funding for Meals on Wheels or for people that need wheelchairs or so forth, can we add a contingency portion so that once this study's done, that we're funding seniors at the level that we need to fund them?
Sure. We've in the past, we've earmarked portions of contingencies for specific uses that maybe we didn't know today exactly how they were going to be used.
Good. So I'll add on to my motion that we put $500,000 contingency in the seniors' budget so that when this analysis is done, we have enough funding to do what is necessary for seniors for 2022. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the entire motion is great, except for the first part. I think we should go ahead and fund the senior centers. Let's go ahead and work through some of the things he talked about. And I think we ought to dispense with the first motion to fund senior centers, then we ought to make a substitute motion, or say a secondary motion, for all the other things that he mentioned. I think those are good ideas. But I don't think we need to not fund this formula this year while we wait. They've been waiting for 7 years. There's more seniors today than there ever has been. Dollars don't go as far as they used to be. Performance measures has driven these numbers based on what seniors do in the county. So again, I'd like to vote against this motion simply because I think it's out of place. I'd like to deal with the first motion first, and then we'd like to do a second motion dealing with all the other ideas that Commissioner Dennis has mentioned. Thank you.
I'll second Commissioner Dennis' motion on the $24,249 funding, along with the contingency fund for based on the analysis. So I'll second that. That's the secondary motion. That was a substitute motion, David Madden. You want it to be?
Can we just say those?
Okay. You want it?
They are, so I can.
Okay.
Well, and Commissioners, is it okay if I try and clarify
Sure.
kind of what the motions are? So in talking with Tim, writing notes to Tim, what we have discovered is that additional $24,000 was part of the overall $620,000. If we want to keep funding at the same level for all senior centers, we probably want to infuse the additional $30,000. That would move it from, so that we can also cover those additional adjustments that the Mulvane Senior Center had already been approved for funding. So we would want to round that original motion that Commissioner Howell had made to $30,000. I think probably Commissioner Dennis, with your motion, if we understand it correctly, it's $500,000 generally, and then also fully fund senior centers. So would you want to do $524,000 or $530,000?
No, I didn't say fully fund those
Okay.
senior centers. What I said was that we would put that money over there so that we could use it in case, after the study is done, and put it in the right place. I'm
Okay.
fine with putting that $24,249 over into senior services, and once that study's done, we figure out where it's going. I am not fine with putting it against these senior centers.
So do you want it to just be a flat $500,000 then? And then we'll just reallocate it however that needs to be allocated?
We can make it $25,000. I'm fine with that.
Okay, $525. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to clarify.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll second that. I have a quick question. There's another question coming at you. So Lindsay, in our adopted budget, or our recommended budget, on page 524, sorry, we can just try to put some levity on this discussion, because if seniors and others are watching.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there's, under programs, there's 3 programs. The middle one is senior centers. And if you go across, you can see an increase, fairly significant increases from 20 to 21, and then the 22 budget jumps. Am I reading that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then even if you go down to the third one, so this number that I'm quoting is about 720,000. Then even go down further to the community services, which is probably, that incorporates all senior functions pretty much.
So this is within just community-based services. There's actually additional programs in aging that are throughout the book.
Okay. Anyway, it's 3.5 million. So I just want to make sure that seniors understand that there's a lot more attention overall to the senior services versus this rather lengthy discussion about senior centers.
Yes.
Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, and if you actually look at page 512, you'll see the grand total budget for the Department on Aging that's recommended for next year is just under 12.5 million.
Say that number again.
On page 512, the grand total proposed budget for aging is just under 12.5 million.
12,460,000.
Yep, $389.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Commissioner Cruz.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, the original motion was to fund these two senior centers at $24,249. The substitute motion is to put that $24,000, which he rounded to $25,000, just in the budget for our senior services
Centers.
What is the Department on Aging, to determine how that $25,000 will be allocated. In addition to that, he wants $500,000, so $500,000 put into contingency. So how does that, show me how that adjusts our budget over here, and how does putting it into contingency factor in?
So at this point, we can't technically increase the overall budget by fund, but what we would plan to do is within your operating reserve, which is $10 million, we would earmark $500,000 of that for use to support senior programs of some variety. I would presume that those would come back to the commission for actual approval based on Commissioner Dennis's statement. So the impact that would have is, again, because it's coming out of a contingency, we don't necessarily forecast to spend contingencies. So what it does is it increases your overall deficit for the 2022 forecast. It doesn't necessarily change your overall budget because we're taking budget authority that's already set aside in a contingency and earmarking it for a specific use.
Okay, so while I agree that we need to figure something different out for seniors and the way we operate our programs, I don't know that I'm comfortable, though, to just allocate $500,000 without any real discussion around what that money will be used for. We just had a study done. How will the next study be different than the one that we just currently conducted? I understand this is kind of getting a little heated in our discussions, and I wonder if we could kind of bring it back down and be very diligent about these funds. Throwing around $500,000 in the heat of the moment, I don't know that I really fully would support that. So that's kind of where I'm at with the current motion on the table. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Howell.
All right, thank you. So looking at the budget book, in 2019, we allocated $620,000 to senior centers. That was according to that motion I read earlier. And then in 2022 budget for senior centers, it's actually $639,566. That's an increase of $19,566 over the from 2019 to 2022. It's a roughly $20,000 increase. The rest of that increase was salary. They went from half an FTE to 1.25 FTE, which I don't really understand that, but that's, again, so to say that we went from 620 to 720 needs to have an explanation. So that this is money that's not necessarily providing services to seniors. This is money that somehow, it's the administration apparently of the program of some sort. Can you please, am I right about that?
I believe so.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Dennis?
Thank you. And Commissioner Cruz, you raised some good questions. I appreciate that. But the reason I asked that, put it in contingency, is because we don't have to spend $500,000 next year. What we can do is get a good study, because the last study wasn't good. We can get a good study and then have our Aging Advisory Council take a look at it, make recommendations to this board, and we would be the ones that decide how much of that $500,000 to spend. But I have to put enough in a contingency so that if they come up with some great idea, that we're not handicapped by not having the money available in the budget. But it doesn't mean we're going to spend anywhere near that much money. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay. I don't see any other comments. So right now, Madam Clerk, clarify the substitute motion there's been motion a second is the one to put $525,000 into the whatever you call it. What is it?
So I think, as we understand it, and what we've typed here
Okay.
is what we would refer to, is 25,000 would be transferred immediately into aging to be decided how to spend.
Correct.
An additional 500,000 would be earmarked in the operating reserve to fund results of a future study.
Okay. That's the motion and the second. Madam Commissioner Cruz?
Hey, Tim, would you mind coming to the podium real fast? For a couple of years, I asked the exact same questions Commissioner Lopez asked about getting our seniors evaluated for how they function in today's society. So, is there a plan to do that?
The department went through an extensive strategic planning process where they engaged a number of stakeholders, and they built a strategic plan around folks that were being that were engaged at that point in time. It's a year and a half old now, and we haven't had an opportunity to implement much of it because of the pandemic. But we do have a strategic plan that's geared towards the current environment and the environment in the 3 to 5 year time horizon. That's one study that's been conducted, but it was a strategic planning process to help guide the department and their partners as they move forward.
Okay, I mean, seems like we love to do studies, we love to plan, and I wonder, when will we start implementing those things, and since it sounds like we haven't really even we haven't had the opportunity, I should say, to do the implementation.
I don't want to discount all the work that the department has done over the past year. They've done a tremendous amount of work, including working with the senior centers to try and give them some access to new tools to engage with their folks as well. But we certainly haven't had a chance to fully implement that strategic plan.
Sure, and I guess that's the comment that I made last week, was understanding intergenerational components. How are the senior centers placed? Where are they at geographically? Could they be implemented into other existing locations of places where there are younger generations that could learn from seniors and vice versa? Those are the kinds of things that, if we could figure out what is the best way to spend this money, I just wonder, it's $500,000, and I know we don't have to spend it, but I don't want to conduct another study just to conduct a study. If it sounds like we have a strategic plan already in place, I'd like to revisit that plan. So how how do you feel about this being allocated for your department?
I'm always in favor of additional funding if that's the will of the commission. The department is committed to serving seniors in many, many different ways. There are lots of different approaches, lots of different needs for the senior population, and they're working diligently to make sure that all of them are served, some through direct services and some through programs like senior centers. Senior centers perform a valuable function within the continuum of services for seniors. There are certainly other needs as well, so we'd be happy to take an additional $500,000 and apply that in a number of different ways to serve additional folks. Again, the primary function, or one of the primary goals, is to help seniors age in place, so in their homes rather than higher levels of care. And so lots of times that's going to be a direct service in someone's home, homemaker services, those types of services, which are much different than what a senior center provides, different than home modification services that we offer, different than transportation. There's a whole array of services that seniors could benefit from, and we'd certainly be interested in expanding some of the programs that we have as well.
Okay, well, it's nice to hear from those who will actually be implementing the work rather than coming from the commission directing. I much prefer that staff come to us with plans, and then we figure out a way to help them, whether it be $500,000 or what have you. I just want to make sure that we're being diligent with the money that we have. We don't have a lot, and when we talk about throwing around, that kind of money, I don't take it lightly. So I appreciate you answering that question for me. And of course, I should have known the answer. I mean, who doesn't want more money in their budget? Thank you, Tim.
And Commissioner Lopez.
Thank you. Actually, can you stay for just a second? This might be for you. Okay, so that plan or the study that had been done by Aging, did that specifically look at our senior centers, and did that, and I apologize, I'd have to go back and look, I can't just recall it off the top of my head, but did that focus anywhere on technology and how we can bring things technologically up to date?
I know that there are aspects of technology included in that strategic plan, and I'm fairly confident that the goals of the strategic plan would include engagement with senior centers to maybe change some of the things that they're doing to help implement that strategic plan. I can't say that there are specific items in the strategic plan tied to senior centers only. Again, they're one component in a broad continuum of services.
Is there a dollar amount that was specified that they would need to fulfill the strategic plan that they presented?
No, nothing. There was no specific dollar tied to it. Again, the strategic plan that they developed was a strategic plan that included all of those federal funds as well. So it looked at the $12.5 million roughly that the department is responsible for. So in addition to the local funding, it also looked at all the other funding. And the other thing that's really changed dramatically since the development of that strategic plan is the federal funding that's come down tied to COVID. And so there are additional funding resources available now from the feds that are different than were available at the time of the strategic plan development.
And in the plan, are there like the top priorities on what needs to be done first, or how, if we implement part of that, if we put $500,000 to start implementing some of that, how is that going to get to the top priorities first? I guess I need to go back and look at it. I wish I would have known we were talking about that plan today, and I would have, but
I would have brought my copy as well, but we certainly have we would have implementation strategies that we would apply to the strategic goals that we've identified for the department and for the community. And so we would, again, prioritize as we implemented any additional amount of funding. We would go ahead and apply it if that was the direction that we received from the commission, we would apply it to the strategic plan and implement through the strategic planning process.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner, if I might just weigh in here. I'm hearing a very clear message from all of you on a two-step process right now, no matter how this vote goes today. One is to bring back the strategic plan and present it in a staff meeting and start there. And I would argue, even at a year and a half old, it is now ancient because we've just gone through pandemic and things are radically different with all populations, especially our seniors. So let's start with strategic plan, revisit it, have staff come in and present it, and then from there go to two studies. A holistic study of the aging department and what it funds, all programs, and then a focus on senior centers, and there's actually 18 funded senior centers according to our website. And we know that we have a number of other senior components out there, gathering places, social gathering places for seniors, which are not funded, which Commissioner Dennis brought up, and focus just on that aspect of senior services. So I would suggest that as a way moving forward. And if there's more money allocated, then we can figure that out systematically and with thought. So I would suggest that.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Commissioner Howell, did you have something?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. So Chairman, thank you for the chance to speak again. We have battered this around for years and years and years. I don't trust us to do, I guess, what we're saying. I don't know that I trust us at this point. I want us to fund the formula. I don't disagree. The $500,000 is a great idea. I do have one question for Tim, since you're still there. Are we going to use the Aging Advisory Board to help figure out how to best spend the $500,000?
We certainly engage them in strategic planning, and we would, if that was the direction from the commission, we'd certainly do that again.
Because they've not had much input to this process up to this point. So I'm a little frustrated that we have an advisory board that frankly can't move policy and they can't recommend policy. I think we need to intentionally include them in this process, in this discussion. So I know we're going to vote, and again, I don't disagree about the $500,000. I think it's a good idea. But my number one priority at the moment is to get the senior centers funded, and I want to deal with that first. And I'd like to make a motion afterwards to deal with the $500,000. I think it's a good idea, and to continue to have this process and have this discussion to figure out how to best provide services for seniors. It's a great discussion. I agree the WSU study was not satisfactory. We need to have better information, and so I think we need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what to do. But the pressures are real, and they need help now. And I don't want to put this off another year. This is the 7th year I've tried. I don't want to put it off again. So let's put $24,000 into the senior centers because that's what the funding should be if we calculate the performance measures. We have a formula. According to the formula, that's what they should get. They're currently providing services to seniors already. So again, I'm going to vote no on the substitute motion with the intent to deal with the $500,000 afterwards, but I want to deal with the senior center funding first. And so again, it's interesting today. By the way, I've heard two people mention already. This is a surprise. I brought this up 2 weeks ago. I have a motion right in front of me. Same motion I read today. I read 2 weeks ago. There's no surprise here. And then I've sent information to commissioners when they've asked, and I know that I have got a huge file of data. It's extensive how much information I have on this. I've done a lot of work on this. I'm data driven, and I've got charts and graphs you wouldn't believe on this topic. And I've shared that with some of my colleagues here. Anybody wants to know more information about senior stuff, I can probably give it to you. I know a lot about the topic. I've been working on this for 7 years. So with that, I feel it's unfair to not deal with the issue of senior center funding right now, and let's talk about the $500,000 and a better path forward as a separate discussion. But it's not fair to not deal with this funding first. And by the way, if this was to pass, I'll make another motion to fund senior centers again anyway. Thank you.
Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman. So currently, there's the substitute motion of the $25,000 with the $500,000. Okay, so that's the current motion on the table.
Correct.
Okay, so, and then secondly, we have been mentioning the WSU study. I know that the Public Policy and Management Center at WSU does an exceptional job of the information that they are provided. And so I want to make sure that when we talk about this study conducted by WSU, they have been great partners. They are excellent researchers. They do their due diligence, and they can only do a study on information that is provided to them. And so I want to make sure that we're not putting this all on a bad study, because I believe wholeheartedly that they did what they could with the information that they were given. And so that's what I'll say about this WSU study that we keep referencing that didn't give us information that we needed. And so I would just encourage, whatever is done, is that we take a deep dive and we get uncomfortable in our senior department, in our aging department. Tom, I need your help to let's get uncomfortable. Let's really let's have some conversations that are going to be tough, and make sure that we get all of the information that is needed so that we can really do and make necessary changes for this department, and whoever is conducting a new study or whatever is going to happen with this money. So I'm not trying to disparage our Department on Aging. Annette and her team, they do a great job. And so I want to make sure that my words are clear and that we are going to have some uncomfortable conversations, but it is not in any way, shape, or form tied to trying to disparage anyone. I think that WSU did what they could with the information they were provided, and I think that that really needs to be stated. So, Chairman, thank you for allowing me that time.
Commissioner Lopez?
I would agree with exactly what you just said. And I would also just throw out that it's really unfortunate that we had this pandemic that happened at the same time, because even the very best study that was done in 2019 is not going to be as relevant today, because so much has changed in how we look at just doing things virtually and everything else since COVID. So I hate that that's the case, and I know there was so much work that was put into that, but unfortunately the time has changed where we do have to pivot a little bit more. So all the work that was put into that is much appreciated. I know the study, I read through it, and it was a lot. I could tell it was a lot of work, and I'm sure it took a lot of time. So I definitely appreciate everything that went into that, and I think our aging group is, I was kind of blown away when I started touring departments, and just the amount of things that they do for our population is just, it's incredible. So thank everyone who's been a part of that so far. I want to make sure that I'm perfectly clear. The motion is the $500,000 plus the $25,000 to be spent later, but not anything with the senior centers today. Is that right?
Right.
And the motion is to move $25,000 over, that the senior services will decide how to use that funding, and a contingency of up to $500,000. The reason I set it at that level was because I don't know what they're going to come up with, and I wanted to make sure that there was enough contingency. It doesn't mean that they were going to spend $500,000, although we're going to keep Tim at bay here a little bit, because it sounded like he was pretty anxious to spend $500,000. But the final decision on how that's spent will all come back to the board. It's not there for them to spend until we agree to how it's spent.
Okay. And to separate those two, that's not a motion, or it will be a motion? You're going to make that motion? Is that what you're saying?
I think we need a motion. We need to vote on whether we're going to fund senior centers or not. Y'all can vote yes or no, but I plan on making a motion to fund senior centers again. Because my motion has been changed, I plan on making a motion to fund senior centers, and you guys want to vote yes or no, that's totally fine. But I want to see us where we are, whether we're willing to vote for funding senior centers or not, according to the formula. So I plan on making that motion after this motion. Because of that, again, I'm not against the $500,000, but let me ask a question to Lindsay. Do we need to earmark this money to do what Commissioner Dennis has proposed, or this is coming out of contingency? We could do this whether this motion passes or not. That the $500,000 is remains in contingency. We can always spend that money on this type of use regardless of whether this motion passes. Is that correct?
So the earmark is what has been proposed. What we would do is go into the forecast and add $500,000 to be used for this purpose so that we could not, even if we had something else come up, we would not use that funding for anything else. It would be dedicated to this purpose until the commission takes a vote. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Again, it's funny that some of the commissioners have used the word making sausage from the bench, which, by the way, I'm fine with. I'm okay with making sausage from the bench. We have to do that sometimes. But that's what we're doing today. It's interesting to me that I highlighted this 2 weeks ago, and we came in here basically with an over hour-long debate on this very topic for $24,000, and we come up with another idea we never heard about until this morning. I think we need to have a vote on senior center funding. So that's my intent, is hopefully get that vote today. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other comments. Been a lot of comments. Any more before we take?
Okay, just for clarity.
There's another comment. There's two comments. Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Commissioner
I'm
Cruz?
just jumping in here.
I guess, so I would like to see the 500,000, and then that's it in one motion. And then 25,000 can be voted on for senior centers or aging. So how can I split that?
So I'll make a substitute motion, a substitute to the substitute, splitting these options into two different votes. One vote for 500,000 to go to contingency, one vote for, please correct me if I'm wrong, Mike Papoon, can I do it like this?
Excuse me, Mike Papoon.
Okay, so I'm making a substitute to the substitute, that we split these two pieces of finances into two votes. We're going to vote on the $500,000 to contingency, vote on the $25,000 to Department of Aging.
For senior centers. You mean senior centers?
Well, his vote was, his $25,000 was to go to the department and let them allocate it.
I think what you might do is just make a substitute to the substitute and just take them one at a time. Just
Okay,
do
take
the
them one at a time.
500,000, for instance.
Is that clear?
So Lorian has them marked here. I want to make sure we are perfectly clear. So we have one row that says earmark 500,000 for future deliberation consideration by commission, and then move $25,000 to aging effective January 1st, 2022 for them to decide how to spend. It is not specifically dedicated to senior centers. So
I think there'll be three votes. So the 500,000, 25,000 to aging.
your mic is not on.
Oh, shoot,
Sorry.
500,000 to contingency, 25,000 just to go to aging, and then the 24,000 to go to senior centers. So there'll be three separate votes. Is that right?
Well, if one of those votes doesn't pass, which if you don't want to give it the $25,000, then that, depending on how the votes go, which I don't know. So I guess, I will change my motion to do exactly what she said. So we'll have three different votes.
Well,
You
and
gotta
I
make
think
a
you're
motion
heading this
for
way,
each vote.
Commissioner Cruz,
Right.
but isn't the 25,000, if that passes, isn't that the money that was going to originally
There's two
be-
different ways it can be spent. It can be given to the Department of Aging. They will decide how it
Right.
spends, or we will decide how it is spent.
Right? Okay. Yes, you can make each motion individually.
I don't care.
Okay, so actually, we are really making sausage from the bench today, y'all. Okay, so
But it's budget day.
here is the substitute to the substitute motion that I will make. $500,000 to contingency fund. Then, the second part to that will be to fund senior centers at $24,249.
I'll second that. Commissioner Al?
Thank you. So again, in the legislature, we call that dividing the question, which is great. We can do that. And of course, I don't think you're making two motions at one time. You have to make one motion and then make another motion. So the first motion is to do 500,000 contingency. And the second motion will happen after we vote on this one, is that correct?
No,
Yes.
she made a motion that said 500,000
Okay. So then-
and 24,249 directly to the senior centers. That
Okay.
was her
Well,
motion.
That I would second, unless you already seconded, I would support.
I already
that.
seconded that.
All right, thank you.
So it's one vote for both of those items, changing it to the distinction of $24,000, $249, to go to seniors centers, Mulligan and Valley Center.
Commissioner Dennis?
Right, to vote against something that I think I believe in so much is that making sure that we support senior services. But again, putting $24,249 into two senior centers, when that's almost how much that all my rural senior centers get together, it's not fair. It's not how that we support our seniors. So you're handcuffing me. If you'd have voted one at a time like I thought you were going to do, and us move through with the 500,000 by itself, I could support that. If you could have said that we're going to move the 24,249 by itself, I could vote against that. If you wanted to say that we can move 25,000 over instead of the 24,249, I could support that. But the way that you made your motion, I can't support it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, I don't see any at this time, so Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez?
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis?
No.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner?
Aye. Okay, make the adjustments. Thank you. Commissioners, is there other adjustments or comments regarding the budget? Okay. Did you have some, this is regarding the budget. Commissioner Cruz?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for this discussion today. I would like to discuss the Kansas African American Museum. I think that we all have heard my motion that I made over our original discussions. Hold on just a second. We have an opportunity to provide funding to a museum who has been hidden in our community, hidden by a county jail, hidden by a county building, hidden by a parking garage. The Kansas African American Museum is the hub of culture for our community, and the African American experience is one that we can all share and learn from. And creating a partnership, a continued partnership with the Kansas African American Museum that stretches the entire state and nation, not just here locally. And so it is, it's important for us to recognize that we do have a true gem in our community, and supporting that opportunity to learn is vital to the success of helping people understand exactly what the African American experience is about. And so with that, I will make a motion to transfer budget authority of $90,000 from the operating reserve to be used to fund the first year of a 5-year commitment for a capital campaign request for the Kansas African American Museum.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. So this is just 1 year, to clarify? Or this is a contract to do a 5-year contract for $90,000 a year for 5 years?
This is a 5-year commitment.
Okay. And with that, clarify that so there would be a document or a contract written up about that?
Yes, we would have a funding agreement. That's typically how we do these.
And I understand from all of our conversations that based on that, this will help support a very fantastic move. And we'll give TCAM a new home, and then future commissions can determine what happens to that place that's very hidden, as you said, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, motion and a second. Thanks for clarifying, everybody. Any other comments? Being none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez?
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner?
Aye. Motion carries. Make that adjustment, please. Okay. Any others? Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to, I guess, clarify my hope for KPTS. I don't plan on making a motion at the moment, because I don't think there's 3 votes to support it. But I do think as we get towards the end of this fiscal year, if there's if there is budget savings in the budget for us to consider this around the beginning of December, I'd like to have that discussion at that time and see whether or not we would be willing at that point as a commission to support the KPTS proposal. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments related to the budget? Commissioner Lopez.
I just have a question about that. What money, if it's left over?
So every year that I've been here at the end of the year, there is consideration for basically off-budget spending. There, as budget performance, we tend to have money left over in the fiscal year. And each year we sometimes will bring things forward. If there's support, we might put a little bit of money towards something that we believe is really important to the community. So KPTS has asked us for $100,000. Again, they've been a good community partner of ours. And I say we have a partnership with them. They provide our broadcast communication to the community, statewide, frankly. And they've asked for this. They have an opportunity, but they do need to do some fundraising to get their plan done. So just like the Kansas African American Museum, it's very much the same. The TCAM is getting $450,000 over 5 years. KPTS is asking for $100,000 one time. So I don't know if we have support for that today. I don't know that there is. I would be glad to have that discussion if the commissioners want to have that discussion. But it might be more comfortable for us to do that at the end of the year when we can see how the budget is performing. I do think we ought to do that. A couple of years ago, we gave $200,000 to the Dock Museum, for example. We're not partners with them, but we did make a choice to do that. And we've given money to the Aviation Museum, for example. There's been numerous other things similar to that we have provided funding for at the end of the year. So this is just similar to that. I'd like to have that conversation as we get into the December timeframe.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments related to the budget? I don't see any, so we do need to make a motion to accept the adoption with all the changes. I've got a document here. Would this be adoption 1?
So
Or
there
two.
are 2 options. Option 1 would be to adopt the entire budget with capital improvement program. Option 2 would be to break them out separately and approve the operating budget versus the debt-funded capital improvement program.
Okay.
And so that would require 2 separate votes.
Well, we've talked about a capital change that we voted on, so if it's okay with the will of the commission, I'd like to just move that we adopt the resolution. I'm going to combine both of them, the budget and the capital, unless there's objection. Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Chairman. I hate to ask this question because it reveals a little bit of my ignorance on the budget, but on the $4 million of bonding that we've had in the past, I understand we're not doing that in this budget. Can you please clarify?
So this year, there's the Public Works Department has proposed a different model now. It won't be a standard $4 million each year. It will be varied by year based on need, and so what's included in the 2022 capital improvement program is about $1.9 million worth of bonding
that's about
for
what
bridge projects.
That's what I read. That's what I read in there. Okay. So I think it's a better policy, and I think that I'm glad to see that there's a change in how we do that. In other words, rather than routine bonding, it's more targeted and more thoughtful, if you will. So I think it's a better idea. In the years past, I have voted for the budget together sometimes, and sometimes I vote for it separately, more just to make a point. And I think this year I'd be glad to go ahead and just put this together, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Justin and everybody ready for make sure the language is right? Is it really just the adoption 1 that I have in front of me?
Yes, it's just that very top one. Actually, it's Sedgwick County budget, sir, this very top one here.
Okay, oh, and it says, and the improvement, capital improvement. Okay, thank you, Lindsay. So I move we adopt the resolution for the 2022 Sedgwick County budget. That includes an operating budget of $462,548,518 and the 2022 capital improvement program of $44,851,064. The total operating budget is partially funded with a property tax levy of $161,536,297, which is approximately equivalent to 29.359 mills based on the estimated assessed value, subject to review and technical adjustments.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Commission, we're going to end up recessing and then come into the fire budget to do the same thing. But why don't we've been at this, why don't we take a 5-minute recess? 10-minute recess? Let's take a 10-minute recess and return at 10:55. And then we'll take up the fire. We're recessing into the fire budget. Thank you, everybody. Okay, everybody. Thank you for the short break, everybody. We will return from the recess to recess into the fire budget at this time. Madam Clerk?
Roll call. Commissioner Lopez?
Present.
Commissioner Dennis? Commissioner Howell?
Present.
Commissioner Cruz?
Present.
Chairman Meitzner.
Present. Next item, please.
New business. Item A, public hearing regarding the 2022 Fire District 1 budget and adoption of revenue neutral rate resolution.
Yes,
Good morning
Tom.
again, Chairman and Commission. This is the same exercise we went through with the general budget, so there's actually two items of business today. We'll have this is the public hearing regarding the 2022 Fire District budget and the adoption of the revenue neutral rate resolution. So this morning is the final public hearing on the 2022 recommended budget for Fire District 1. It totals $21,095,559. This budget will be supported with a property tax levy of $18,474,511, which will require a mill levy of approximately 17.889 mills based on the estimated assessed valuation and subject to technical adjustments. As a reminder, the revenue neutral rate is 17.485 mills. I recommend you open the public hearing on the budget and the revenue neutral rate, receive comments, and then close the public hearing once that is over.
Okay, thank you. Doesn't look like there's any initial comments, so we will open it up. We will open up to the public comment on the fire budget. Does anybody from the public want to address the commission? I'll ask again, but so I don't see any public comment. So make a motion to receive and file that we had no public comment on the fire budget.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez?
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Okay, the fire budget is in front of us. Lindsay, you got anything?
Commissioners, you'll want to vote to adopt that resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate as well before you move to the
Okay.
fire budget.
I need to make a motion that we exceed the rate, what's it called again?
Adopt the resolution stating your intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate.
Okay, adopt a resolution to go with the revenue adjusted rate.
Second.
Motion and a second. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez?
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Okay, now we're in the budget talk.
Next item.
Go ahead, Tom. Did you have something?
Madam Clerk.
Item B, adoption of the 2022 Sedgwick County Fire District 1 budget.
Chairman and Commissioners, the 2022 recommended Fire District 1 operating budget totals $21,095,559. This budget will be supported with a property tax levy of $18,474,511, which will require a mill levy of approximately 17.889 mills based on the estimated assessed valuation and subject to technical adjustments. The public was invited to participate in two public hearings and comment on the online form provided by Sedgwick County. I recommend you adopt the resolution for the 2022 Fire District 1 operating budget.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. During our discussions over the budget here about 2 weeks ago, I discussed the recommendation that I'm going to have to add an additional 2% pay for the fire district. And I understand that we've got 40-some departments overall in Sedgwick County, but this is budget we can isolate out because it's a completely separate budget. So what I'd like to do is move that all positions on the Fire District 1 staffing table that are recommended to receive a 2% pay adjustment be given an additional 2% pay adjustment, and the necessary budget authority transferred from the Fire District contingency to the operating budget to accommodate the increase. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'll second that. Any other comments on that? Commissioner Howell?
Can we see an update on the contingency, balance? Where are we at on that? This is $270,000, I guess. Is that what that says?
Yes, sir. So I don't recall off the top of my head what the fire district fund balance is. But there is, the contingency itself will have $1 million in it, and so this would be a reduction from that amount.
This pulls from the $1 million contingency?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? I don't see any. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Is there any other comments or questions about the fire budget? I don't see any. So with that, ooh boy, I'm going to do the same. I move that we adopt the resolution for the 2022 Fire District 1 budget that includes an operating budget of $21,095,559. The total operating budget is partially funded with a property tax levy of $18,474,511, which is approximately equivalent to 17.889 mils based on the estimated assessed value, subject to review and technical adjustments.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Any other comments? Being none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, will we return, we'll adjourn the fire meeting, Fire District 1 meeting, and we will come back to the regular order of County Commission business. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item C, Third Amendment to Agreement for Legislative Liaison Services.
Ms. Cole. Hi, Tanya. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Tanya Cole, Assistant County Manager. This morning, I have an agreement and a third amendment for legislative liaison services with Watkins Public Strategies for your approval. As part of this agreement, their scope of services includes representing Sedgwick County government and the interest of Sedgwick County government as directed to the State of Kansas Legislature, presenting potential legislative items to the Board of County Commissioners, providing continuous and ongoing legislative advice to the county concerning the county's platform issues, monitoring all bills of importance to Sedgwick County government, including those affecting operations of county departments, taxation matters, state and local partnership concerns, and other local governments, so that the county has the opportunity to engage in discussions, understanding legislations affecting local governments and items of importance to KAC, Kansas Association of Counties, and League of Kansas Municipalities, and other lobbyists representing Kansas local government, keeping the Board of County Commissioners, county manager, and department heads informed of progress, assisting county staff in delivering testimony before legislative committees, and sending legislative bills to departments and agencies for review and recommendation for legislative action. We have worked with Jason Watkins since 2015 for legislative liaison services, and this is the third amendment for Watkins Public Strategies. This amendment would start on October 1st of this year and go through September 20th of 2022 with 2 additional one-year terms with an annual compensation of $60,000. Additional to this amendment is a conflict of interest term, which states that if there is a conflict of interest in representing the county due to the representation of another client, our consultant agrees to notify the county manager in writing regarding said conflict and the exact nature of said conflict. It does not relieve the consultant from a duty to notify the county of hearing or legislative proceedings relating to such issues and to assist county staff as feasible to lobby on its behalf of said issue. This year, Watkins Public Strategies were successful in assisting us with the nuisance abatement bill the right to a speedy trial bill, and the driver's license reform, amongst the other services as mentioned above. So if approved today, we would again be working and coordinating with Jason Watkins, Jessica Lucas, and he does keep 2 WSU interns on his staff. So I would be glad to answer any questions you might have. And Mike Papoon is here, as well as Akeem Ashford, who does work directly with Jason Watkins during the legislative year. So.
Okay. Thank you for that update in the report. I know we've all been somewhat briefed on this as well. Is there any comments or questions about this third amendment? I don't see any, so I will make a motion to approve the third amendment to the agreement for legislative liaison services.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz. Chairman Meitzner.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
You bet. Next item, please.
Item D, resolution amending certain Sedgwick County personnel policies and procedures.
Commissioners, Chairman, as Sheena approaches the podium, she'll present this. This is a continuation. The Commission last week regarding policy 4.2002, which is a sign-on bonus policy, approved sign-on bonuses for facilities maintenance positions, call takers and dispatch positions, CommCare case managers, and CommCare senior social workers. There was discussion from the bench last week to include paramedics and corrections staff, which is what Sheena will present today.
Good morning, Commissioners. Akeem is passing out the policy and the resolution for you to review.
Good morning,
There
Senator.
I'll wait till you guys get that. As Tom mentioned, there are 2 additions to this policy under the scope on page 1. We have items D for EMS paramedics to receive a sign-on bonus in the amount of $2,500. And also item E, corrections, the ISOs, corrections workers, including senior and supervisor correction workers for $1,500, and the cook position of a sign-on bonus at $500. We would stand for any questions you might have about those additions to the policy.
Okay, so it's the same one we reviewed before with the addition of item D and E.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I think that's kind of was the direction from the commission before, but we got a couple of questions. Sorry, I didn't know which one was first. You were. Okay, Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Let me go through and understand exactly how you came up with these numbers. What kind of education does facility maintenance position require?
That's an entry level, so it'd just be a high school diploma.
So it's an entry level?
Yes. The skill set needed for that, as described by the department, is there's a lot of technical knowledge that they are requiring of their employees.
Okay. What about call taker? What kind of education do they need in order to be able to become a call taker?
High school diploma.
It's an entry-level position? Yes. Okay. CommCare case manager, what kind of an education do they need in order to be able to do that?
It's for 4-year degree or bachelor's level.
4-year degree?
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons it's $1,000 more, correct?
Yes, sir.
Very good. For an EMS paramedic, what kind of education do you need for that?
It's a 2-year degree and associate level.
So it's a 2-year degree?
Yes.
Okay. Corrections, ISO 2.
I'm going to look to Rusty for confirmation, but I believe that's a bachelor's level.
A BS degree?
Yes.
4 years?
Yes. And then I don't believe that there is a education requirement on the corrections workers or the cook position.
Okay. The social worker for CommCare, that's a master's, correct?
That's correct.
So these numbers that you've put on here are really based on the degree of education and the time that they've spent in order to be able to get to that point, correct?
Yes, and some of the skills needed to be able to perform those jobs.
Very good. Well, I agree with your decisions. I appreciate it. I just wanted to clarify how that you came up with those numbers. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Dennis, for that, because as well, these would be new employees, so we don't have a employment history with them, so work performance is not part of the.
That's correct. Yeah,
Right.
would not
So,
be considered.
Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Chairman. Just curiously, the funding for these bonuses is primarily funded out of salary savings from 2021 budget, is that correct? Because you have open
I
positions.
believe that's correct, yes.
So many open positions, we've not spent the money that was budgeted, and there may be some overtime, but I think COVID also tied into this as well, so.
Yeah.
In all these cases, I believe there's probably a salary savings that would cover the cost of these bonuses, is that correct?
Yes, we're having a hard time filling all of these positions.
Was there any thought to the urgency of filling these positions and how much salary savings is available for these bonuses? In other words, if there's a larger amount of money available and you're trying to fill a number of positions, I mean, it might be reasonable to consider how much money is available in salary savings to try to incentivize that as much as possible. Is there any thought to that at all?
I think, and I'm just speaking for me personally, I looked at it more of equity, recognizing that all of these departments that we have talked about are in urgent need of filling these positions.
So in some cases, there may be more money available. We're not going to spend that money because we're trying to keep these things tied to level of education, I guess, is a primary factor. But there may be more money available in some of these areas than other. Some areas may have more money available than other areas, but we're not considering that aspect. We're only considering the education part.
Yes, and usually the larger departments will have more money.
Well, I'll just say, once again, I'm a little concerned about the EMS being $2,500. I think it should be more. And if we have time to, this is not tied to the budget in any way today, so we could deal with this at any point going forward. If we want to change that number, we could change it next week if we wanted to, for example. I'd like to know what our salary savings is for the 2021 budget in the EMS part of the budget. And I would just say, once again, I think we're still in crisis mode, although I think we fixed a number of things in the EMS organization. It's still a crisis, so much so our response times are not better and the ambulances are not on the street. We have a public safety problem, and public safety is our number one priority. As much as I love these other positions, they're not. Some of these are not public safety. Obviously, call takers and dispatch positions, I would say, are public safety. Corrections is public safety. I'm not so sure about the other ones, but no offense to anybody. I'm just trying to understand. Out of all the priorities, public safety is our number one priority. I think everybody tends to agree with that, I believe. And so on that EMS thing, if there's more money available to solve this problem, I'd like to know what is out there. So I'll be asking those questions as we
yeah, and I'll confer with
try to
Lindsay and
solve
get the
this.
salary savings for 21.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other comments. I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Don't see other comments. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez. Aye. Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Gina, thank you and your staff for all this work, and in finance, thank you, everybody, for all the work on this. I know it's been trying times, but we're trying to work together to keep serving the public the way we should be with these positions. So thank you very much for your work.
And we will plan to revisit with the commission in 6 months, as we alluded to last time as well. And we will survey these employees who do receive the signing bonus to get their feedback.
Okay. Perfect. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Consent agenda.
Commissioners, Tom Stolz, County Manager's Office, recommend approval of consent item E. Edward this morning.
There's okay, we've seen any questions about consent item, just one item E? I don't see any questions. I'll make a motion to approve consent item E.
Second.
Motion and a second. No other questions. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lopez. Aye. Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz.
Aye.
Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. And Public and Commission, I know we had, that this should be adjourned, but there room for other if anybody likes to say other, and then we'll adjourn. Commissioner Dennis?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first thing I want to do is I want to thank Finance for all the hard work that they did to get this budget. They started working last year. We started working on this in February. Been moving forward, and finally here at the end of August, we just adopted it. So I know they all left it. No, Lindsay's still here. I apologize. But please pass on our gratitude for how hard they worked. It's not always easy dealing with 5 commissioners. It's got 5 or 6 different ideas. So thank you. We got through it. I appreciate it. But the other thing I want to talk about is that those of you that had an opportunity to take a look at the Wichita Eagle on Sunday, and Dion's in the room. This is the front page of the Wichita Eagle Sunday, and it is pretty cool. For those that haven't had an opportunity, I've got a copy you're welcome to read. I want to keep it because this is a great souvenir, but it's got a red panda right on the front, and we just had a nice celebration yesterday over at the zoo. With 50 years, and we've got a couple animals that are 50 years old. Stephanie, our elephant, just celebrated her 50th anniversary. We want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to go over and take a look at what's happening at the zoo. There are great things happening. Not only do we have a new entrance, there's a new leopard exhibit that's going to be opening in the near future. And next year, we're going to have 2 electric trains running around there that are being manufactured right here in Sedgwick County at Chance Manufacturing. So, great things are happening. The #1 tourist attraction in the state of Kansas, about $43 million impact on the economy here. I'd like to recommend everyone go. And speaking of things to do, here you go, Commissioner Howell, and if you will pass these down to the other commissioners. There's another event that's coming up. Besides, I want to make sure that everybody remembers about Zubilee. Make sure that you get your tickets because that's coming up in the near future. But also October 1st to December 5th, we've got Wild Lights that is happening at the Sedgwick County Zoo, where that they've got a number of lights where that you go in the evening. You can go onto their website and you can buy tickets in order to see Wild Lights. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak today, but there are great things happening at our Sedgwick County Zoo, and I wanted to make sure everybody knew what was happening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That commercial was provided by David Dennis. Commissioner Howell.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I don't know if Lindsay's in the room or not. I can't see her.
Yes.
She's over there. I just want to say thank you. Commissioner Dennis is exactly right. This process of passing the budget is very complicated. And when you add in COVID and ARPA and CARES, this has been probably one of the hardest years for finance, I think, in the history of Sedgwick County. And I often say that budgets are not in my opinion, it's not a moral topic. And there's sometimes you say, well, I really feel strongly this is the right answer and that's the wrong answer. You kind of see things as a yes or no or right or left or whatever. But when it comes to budget processes, there's so many things in there. Any commissioner could find reasons to vote for it or vote against it. And you have to decide if you're willing to stomach the things you don't like to show support and for the things you do think are necessary, or whether you want to vote against the budget because of some things that you don't care for and bypass essentially the things you do support. So it's always a hard thing to vote on a budget, and I think it was good to get 5-0 this year. There have been some times I voted against a budget for various reasons, but I wanted to say thank you. I know it was a long process. The only thing I would say that I think might improve our process, and this really want to bring this up today, I'm thinking back over the process this year, and I'm not sure it's been the same in previous years. I'm just not sure. But this year we did have an opportunity before the manager's recommended budget to sit down with staff and the manager, kind of get a budget presentation and kind of some of the challenges and some of the things that are being recommended, and kind of get a commissioner's input on what we want to see changed in the budget. We did that this year, right? Did we ever have a public meeting amongst commissioners on that budget proposal prior to manager's recommended budget? I don't think we did.
Prior to the July 14th recommendation?
When you send out your manager's recommended budget, I don't know that the other commissioners necessarily knew what. For example, say I had an idea and I wanted to present my idea to the staff. The other commissioners may not have ever heard my comments because there's no way to do that.
That's correct, sir.
So I think as an improved process, I would like to ask next year, maybe we do this two ways. Let's add a meeting, please, so that we would have the chance to privately share our thoughts and concerns on the budget, recommendations on the budget, as we do today, one commissioner to that room of experts that can help, understand what we're trying to do. I think that needs to continue to be an option for us, but I do think we need to have a commission meeting where other commissioners can hear our ideas and we can have some discussion in an open public meeting before the manager's recommended budget is completely assembled and presented.
Yeah, let me just clarify, Commissioner, and make sure I'm hearing you. We had public meetings in May where commissioners talked and heard presentations from departments regarding their budget challenges and decision packages, of which commissioners were publicly able to comment. Then between that time and July 14th, when I present my recommended budget, we historically get with commissioners individually and just ask them for final assessment. And that is what you're talking about here. You want that final assessment comment, some of which commissioners make comments and some that they don't. You want that brought forward to a public meeting before the actual budget.
When I went to the 8th floor, what was the date on that meeting?
Of which?
I went to the 8th floor and met with finance and you.
That would be between the May public hearings and the July 14th.
So I'm suggesting we would simply do that meeting again, second time, with all 5 commissioners, so we can hear each other talk about some of the ideas and some of the concerns we have about the budget. That's the one step we didn't have. And so here's what happened. And I think we have a great process, but I'm trying to improve the process. When the manager's recommended budget came out, I think we're all like on pins and needles saying, what's going to be in that budget? We don't know. And I had some concerns about things I wanted to share to my colleagues, but I had no way to do that under Kansas Open Meetings Act. I never had an opportunity to share my ideas to them, and I don't know that you will share my ideas to them because you really can't do that either. So my point is this, and I think other commissioners may have had ideas that they shared on the 8th floor to the very same staff, and I don't know what they talked about. We don't have a public open meeting where 5 commissioners can actually essentially do the same thing we did on the 8th floor, but in a public open meeting amongst all 5 commissioners. I think there's an opportunity for us to be a little bit more transparent, for us to share our ideas publicly, if we're willing to do that, before you get to that, again, between May and manager recommended, that when we had that meeting on the 8th floor, the very same type of meeting, but let's do that in a public open meeting as well.
I understand.
As an addition to what we already do.
Okay.
I think that would be an improvement. So I want to say, number one, thank you to everyone. Great job this year. We have some really good people with a tremendous skill set to make this happen. And if the public doesn't know, this is over, roughly 850-page document. It's enormous, and the detail in there. By the way, I've gone to some of the small cities around the county and looked at their budgets. They're not, in my opinion, transparent. They're hard to find. They're hard to read. They're not searchable. They're not. In fact, I looked at one yesterday. 2 days ago, I actually had to contact the city administrator to have them send me a copy, and it was about 15 pages of a scanned document. But it wasn't online, and on it goes. And so I think, again, we look at what Sedgwick County does and how we do it. I think we're very, very good, and our staff obviously does a tremendous job. So I want to say thank you for everyone. My couple of final comments here. I do have opportunities for the public to engage me privately. Again, public open meetings, I guess, but me personally, I have the first Friday of each month, I do my CAB board meeting. The second Monday of each month, I do Range 54, where I provide beverages. People want to come out to Range 54 and chat in a classroom. But this Friday, again, the last Friday of every month, unless there's a holiday or something, last Friday of every month I do coffee, and that's this coming week. So 2 days from today, I'll do coffee at 1636 East Patriot Avenue, and from 7 to 9 a.m. It's early, but my Range 54 is late in the day. This one's early. If you guys want to come out, that'd be great. I do have one concern, and I called the election commissioner yesterday to talk about this. A couple of days ago, there was a community meeting where Secretary Schwab came down and fielded questions on the election processes for the 2020 presidential election and I guess probably the 2021 municipal elections. There's a lot of concern from the community regarding how Sedgwick County election equipment actually operates. I know we have some YouTube videos out there, but I think I'd like to understand the exact questions that are being asked by the public and address those with a video or some type of opportunity for the public to put their hands on the equipment and see how it works and examine it and understand it more deeply, because I think there's some concerns about election processes, election equipment in Sedgwick County. I think we have the best in the nation, the best that money can buy, the best processes, the best laws of our state. Again, I think we're excellent in Sedgwick County. But when people don't understand the things that are in place and how things work, they might believe there's problems. They might believe something is wrong when really there's nothing wrong. There's great explanations and great, when you understand exactly how things work, I think we have a very, very good system. So I would like to, I anticipate some questions on Friday at my coffee, potentially. I do think it would be great for the election office and our staff, our communications folks, to work together and bring in some of the folks that have these questions, and let's let them address these questions, and let's create some YouTube videos or whatever we can do to hopefully get the answers out. Because I want to address these questions directly. I think when you understand exactly how it works, it gives me peace and gives me confidence that things are good. But I want people to have the same confidence that I have. And I think that when they understand exactly how our stuff works, that's what I hope will happen. So we have an opportunity. Again, I expect I'll have some questions on Friday. If anybody from staff wants to come down and be with me, that'd be great. It doesn't have to happen, but I do know there's a lot of angst in the state. And again, at that meeting, the community meeting, there was hundreds of people who showed up, many of them from out of county, that came and fielded questions. It was a very, very passionate meeting. So I know there's a lot of questions and concerns out there. I think we need to be aware of that and address it with some type of communication from the county. Thank you, Chairman.
Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, thank you to our staff for putting this together. This is a really complicated thing to understand. And so making it easy for the community to be involved by creating those online forms. I really want to commend you for doing that, and I'd like to see more of that in the future. I will say that persistence is key. I'm so excited to see this grant position, the grant manager positions put in. So after a couple of years of asking for it, I'm really glad that it's in here now, because I think, having someone who is dedicated to the grant process, understanding what's available, understanding how to look, that will be there to help all of our departments, I think is a really good step in the right direction. And finally, as county officials, we're responsible for public health, public safety, and public works. And in our capital improvement plan, outside of all of the roads and bridges that we're going to take care of for public works, for public health, we have really stepped up this year. We have put some significant improvements in our public health sector with regards to some remodeling of our West clinic. $3 million in that. We have our Community Crisis Center expansion, $15.4 million allocated to a consolidation of services. A couple of those services that are now in different parts of our community can now be consolidated into one place, because when you think about mental health, substance abuse, and homelessness, we have to make sure that we are helping the person receiving the service. And what is the easiest way for them to receive the service? And it's not driving all over town to receive those services. So this is just one important step in the right direction. We know we have a housing crisis with the studios with Humankind. That's opening pretty soon. That will take 54 people off of the streets and into a 300 square foot studio apartment to help them rebuild their lives. And so that was maybe the first step. And now we have our crisis ComCare expansion that will hopefully just be one next win. And so our work is not done. I am so appreciative of commissioners for understanding the importance of this. I do think maybe the next step would be to evaluate our Harry Street Mall location down there, adult services down there. Can we, the rationale behind putting it all the way down there, was it because it was a cheap building? Those are some of the things that we think about in services to our community. It's not just, can we go to a cheap place that has cheap rent, but are we offering services to community members in a way for them to easily access them, understanding that transportation is a real problem? So the things that we have in our capital improvement plan and that we just voted on today, I think are a step in the right direction. And for many years, this commission in years past has not put an emphasis on health, and we have done that today. And so I appreciate that vote. So thank you to our staff for putting this together. Thank you to commissioners for understanding the importance of that. That's it.
Commissioner Dennis?
Real briefly, I just want to follow up on one of the comments that Commissioner Howe made about the elections. And I agree, we need to get some better information out to the community that our elections are safe and secure. I continue to get phone calls and emails from people that do not believe our last election here in Sedgwick County was safe and secure. And they've even got a website you can go to that shows Sedgwick County election was fraudulent. We've had our election commissioner at the time say that our election was completely safe and secure. We've had our Secretary of State say that our election was completely safe and secure, and yet there's still false information out on the web that people are reviewing that they believe, and I think it damages the reputation of Sedgwick County. It calls into question whether or not that we're really doing what we need to do to provide safe and secure elections. So I totally agree that we need to get the word out that we have safe and secure elections in Sedgwick County. There's questions about the grant that we received last year. And that grant, we even had the election commissioner come over at the time and brief us on that before that we felt that that was a grant that we could use. And if you read that grant, there is absolutely no strings attached to that grant that was received last year. But people keep coming up saying Zuckerberg was trying to buy our election in Sedgwick County. And it couldn't be further from the truth if you read that grant. So somehow we've got to get the truth out, because everybody is believing if it ends up on Facebook or if it ends up someplace on a website, it's true. Well, it's not true. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Lopez?
Thank you. I just wanted to really say how thankful I am that we're putting an emphasis on our staff this year. This problem has been a long time in the making, and it won't be a fix that can be done overnight, but the fact that we are doing such a large reclassification and making sure that people are starting to at least be on the right page and get on the step to start being paid what people deserve. And I just want everybody who works for Sedgwick County to know that you are valued. We see you. I am so sorry that it's gotten here, but we are going to do everything we can going forward to make sure that you are compensated appropriately. And, like I said, it's a process, but I'm very glad that we are starting this, and want to thank everybody. And Sheena, thank you for all of your work you put into this. I can't imagine how many hours have gone into looking at every position and doing the reclassification. And just thank you to my fellow commissioners for also being ready to do this and seeing that it is a problem and working to fix it. So thank you all, and to everybody that works for Sedgwick County. I see you, I appreciate you, and I hope that we can get this right for you soon. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. As you know, times 5. I just want to make a really quick point clarification. We had our special meeting last Friday regarding, and Diane, I'm glad you're here, regarding the Dr. Min's order. Obviously, Dr. Min's recommendation was released at about noon to us, and I had an appointment that I had to give a speech at, so I knew I was tied up from noon to 1. But I had asked Tom, the manager, to let's poll each of the commissioners, and if each of them say that we're going to meet this afternoon, then let's give the proper notice legally, and we'll have the meeting. It was determined that 4 o'clock was adequate time, and I even said to Tom, you'll recall, I said if one commissioner doesn't want to meet and wants to meet next week, Monday, Tuesday, whatever, then we'll do that. All 5 commissioners said they preferred to meet because there was a sense of urgency from Dr. Min's and the people that he converses with. And so that's why we met at 4 o'clock Friday. So I know there's some chatter out there that I, maybe personally as the chair, rushed something through to have a meeting. That's totally false. Each commissioner was asked, and each commissioner, if one of them did not want to do it, I was supportive to delay it no matter what. So I just wanted to make sure that's clear. I know you've referenced the web. There's some stuff out there on whatever, Facebook. Probably need to clarify that as well, but I'll do that. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. And thank you again, Commission, for all the work you've done. Thank you for last Friday to come as we all knew was the last minute, and wound up being about a 3-hour meeting. And then we've had a good meeting yesterday, and then we at the finish line today with the adoption of the budget. So you're all to be congratulated, and we did it in a pretty civil manner, which I believe is very valuable as a group. So thank you, and if there's no other comments, then we will stand adjourned.